Hey there. Welcome to the Pine Island Experience podcast. I'm Joanna Anderson with my husband, Trygve. Each of our episodes will be conversations with fellow Pine Islanders.
The goal of our podcast is to share with you our experiences, what we have found to be fun, and what makes the Pine Island experience so unique.
That was Ryan's absolute, the one word I would use for Ryan and for the business was integrity. He would not compromise. He wouldn't compromise us or the customer.
And he would always stand by his work too. So if something went or
If there's an issue, it's taken care of. It's a big island, but it's a small island. And we do most of our work on the island.
You were listening to Jay St. John of St. John Remodels and Repairs. Jay and his son Connor sat down with us and told us about their services and their commitment to quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. As Best of Pine Island winners for both 2023 and 2024 in cabinets and flooring, they are truly living up to their commitment. And now, here are Jay and Connor. All we have with us today, Jay and Connor St. John from St. John's Carpentry Remodel and Repairs. So welcome. We're so happy you're here. We're seeing your work almost every day as we walk by with the dog. So it's very impressive.
oh yeah,
Thank you.
And congratulations, Best of Pine Island for cabinetry and floors 2023 and 2024. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, we start in the very beginning about where you were born, where you grew up, and for both of you, and then we venture into Pine Island. So,
Okay.
Jay,
Easy
do you
enough.
want to start first?
Sure.
Okay.
Was born November 24th, 1970 at Baptist Hospital in Oklahoma City. Okie up until 7 years ago. In construction, about 25 years. Car business before that. School before that. Grew up with a sister and a brother. Mom and dad, obviously, in Edmond, Oklahoma. And moved here about 7 years ago after vacationing here for a number of years, since the early 2000s. That's a basic overview, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll let Connor
Yeah.
tell his side of it.
All right, Connor. And so I initially moved to Florida after going to college a couple different places, hopping around. And I ended up here after COVID. And before that, I was in Tampa for marine science. And so that was I came down a year before my parents did, my dad and my mom. And I ended up down here, and now I'm doing construction and fishing all the time. That's what I do now. And
Life is good.
yeah, life is way good.
So you guys mentioned that you started with vacations first. How'd you discover it then as a vacation spot?
That's an interesting story. We went to Disney World. This would be when
I think-
probably around 2000.
It
We
was
found our way here. It was late. It was around 2008.
I thought it started off at Destin.
Well, we were going to Destin for years, but as far as coming here, it started with Destin, and then worked our way down here. We went to Disney World one year. Basically, we spent a day and a half at Disney World and couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
The lines were insane. My youngest son, Ryan, was riding around on my shoulders. He was, 8 years old, I guess, at the time.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare. The crowds were terrible. So we trashed our tickets and went and said, okay, let's just go over to St. Peter's. We'll go over to St. Petersburg for a couple of days and then go home, finish our vacation out, go to the beach, that kind of thing. And while we were in St. Petersburg, we started looking at, okay, my wife's really good at this, looking at what places are around here, what can we go do? And she found Sanibel and Captiva. And then that struck a chord with me because when I was I've been obsessed with collecting seashells since I was a little kid. which in Oklahoma makes no sense, but there was a little store called Pier 1 Imports that my mom used to take me to, and I collect shells, and I had books and books of shells. And they, when I was about 12 years old, they took us to Captiva Island to go shelling and to a vacation. And my wife found Captiva on the map, and I'm like, wait a minute, I went there when I was 12 years old. We need to do that next year. And so we started looking at places to go around Captiva, and the closest RV resort that we could find was Red Coconut, but they were totally booked. So she said, well, there's Pine Island, which is right by there, and they've got a KOA. So we'll book that and we'll stay there. And it became a twice a year thing because we came here and we're like, strategically, it's perfect. We can go to this beach, this beach, that beach. We can go to Sanibel, we can go to Captiva, we can do all this.
Okay.
And so that was how it started here. And we ended up coming down, got to the point where we came down every Christmas, and we'd spend Christmas down here, which was really fun for me because I'm used to Christmas in Oklahoma. I'm outside in a T-shirt and shorts grilling steaks when it's 60 degrees and people were walking by with scarves and, oh my gosh, it's so cold. And I'm laughing about it. Now I totally understand because I'm the same way. So that's how we found Pine Island. And we found Pine Island because Disney World was a mess. And because I went to Captiva when I was a kid. So it's kind of a weird.
Did you get to go shelling again?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I've got a case full.
Nice.
Tons of them. Every time we go to the beach, I go shelling. I got the boys into it a little bit. Connor was more interested in creatures. I've got a picture of him with a moray eel wrapped around his arm, staring in the eyes.
Yeah, when Blind Pass over at Sanibel was like had that pool and then the big sandbar and thought it was a shell, and then I pull it up. I'm like, wait,
he pulled it up and it slithered and wrapped around his arm. But I've got a picture of him, and he's got the heads pointing right at his face, and he's looking at it, and it's a great picture.
Oh, nice.
It's funny when you talk about the Christmas and your T-shirt and shorts and stuff. I remember a massive football fan. So as you get into December, you're in your own home, you got a sweatshirt on, fires going in the family room near the TV and stuff like that. And invariably, there would be either a Southern football team, or if you got into bowl season, invariably, they were in the Miamis and the warmer. Oh, yeah. And you'd see these people in this, sunglasses and polo shirts and not wrapped up in coats. And it's like, not knowing that years later I'd end up down here and we sold off all our heavy clothing. But it's almost like you have these like visions that you don't understand until you're here.
Oh, yeah. Very much so. Very much so. I can totally, I'm an OU fan, so I can totally identify with the football thing because football is king in Oklahoma, believe me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the weather, just we talked about it earlier, the charm of this island is what drew us to it. That's why we, years later, once the boys were all grown, we ended up here. And who would have thought? I've got another son that still lives in Oklahoma. He's in banking, and he's got he's pretty well established. He loves coming down here to visit, but he's established up there. So the other two, who would have thought they followed us down here? Yeah. We're trying to get away. We were trying to get away, and they just keep following us.
Yeah, but you came to a great spot.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I'm kidding about it. I mean, I'm happy to. We were thrilled that they wanted to come down here with us. We're tight. We're a tight family.
So you talked about a couple other careers, and one of remember you just mentioned car dealers and stuff like that. And then you moved to construction. So what got you to leave the prior careers and move into construction?
That's an interesting story. I was in sales and in finance and car business for really, it started out as a summer job when I was in college. And then I ended up making it a full-time career for a few years. And I was working at a Honda dealership in Edmond, Oklahoma. And one day I was sitting at my desk and I'm just like, I had been helping a good friend of mine renovate a condo that he bought. My wife sold him a condominium. She was in real estate at the time. and it was an investment property, and I was helping him. I dabbled in carpentry and things like that. That's a whole nother. I had an uncle that was really amazing man. His name was Carol Taylor. He was actually an anesthesiologist. He was the president of the Board of Medicine in Oklahoma for years. But this man was next to my father. I idolized him. He had in their house, they had a hallway that was 9 feet high, probably, when I was a kid, it seemed like it was 100 yards, but it was probably 40 or 50 feet long, and it was a bookshelf. He had read every book in that hallway cover to cover. He had a lapidary in his house. He did stone cutting. He did faceted gem cutting, made jewelry. He had a machine shop in his house. He actually patented a pin cutter for surgery. He had a wood shop, lathes, turning equipment. This guy, that's what got me into carpentry and building things and interested. And so anyway, I love doing carpentry. I was helping my friend Braden Garrett do this condo. So I kind of got a taste for that and started on weekends doing inspection repairs and minor repairs on my wife's real estate properties and enjoyed it. So one day I was sitting in my office at the car dealership, and I called my wife. I'm like, I really hate this business. I hate this. I'm not happy. I don't like doing it. And what if I just started doing handyman work and remodel work full time? She said, go for it. I literally hung up the phone with her, got up, walked into my sales manager's office, a guy named Kelly McEwen. And I just told him, I said, Kelly, I'm leaving. This isn't my thing. I've got another career I want to pursue, and I'm just not, this just isn't my thing. And he's like, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I've been doing that on the weekends, I've been doing remodel work and doing, basic home repair and that kind of thing. I think I'm going to make that a full-time job. He's, well, you want to paint my house? And I said, well, sure. He's like, well, why don't you come over and measure it and give me. So he actually really gave me my first big job outside the car business, and I painted his house. And ironically, 3 weeks later was our first trip to Pine Island, believe it or not. That was the year that we actually came to the KOA at Pine Island.
So it was all falling into place.
Yeah, it just kind of happened. From that point on, I've been in construction.
Did you enjoy fixing things, or did you enjoy being your own boss, or what was it, or making things better? Yes, all of the above.
All of the above.
Yeah. You're smiling talking about it, so obviously.
Yeah, I like fixing things. Yeah. I like tinkering. It's like I told you earlier, when I'm not at work and I'm not out running around with my wife or fishing or, I'm either doing those things. I like to fish. I'm not a fisherman. He's a fisherman. I like to fish, but I build model airplanes. I tinker. Mm-hmm. And so I'm always doing stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I like building things. And I like fixing things. I like taking something that's broken and making it better. Yeah. And I get a lot of satisfaction from it. And I think that carried on to my boys in different aspects. He's a tinkerer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's a fisherman, but he's a tinkerer. Believe me. It's just fun. It's fun taking something that doesn't work or something that, or a house that's dilapidated, and fixing it up, and it has its ups and downs. There are parts of it where you're like, man, I wish I wasn't doing this, or man, it's hot, or yeah, I hate getting dirty all the time. I hate wasps. I hate no-see-ums. Yeah. Oh, great. It's 2:00. I just got rolling, and now here comes the afternoon thunderstorm.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Got to roll everything up. But when you're done and you step back and look at it and you think, man, that looks good. Get a lot of satisfaction from it.
And your customers must be overjoyed because you're fixing
sure,
their stuff. I mean, you're not doing new construction. You're going in and repairing what they love.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that they've had for a long time, and they've been looking at it. They're like, man, we should really do that. Get that fixed.
It's nice. It's neat to.
Yeah. It shows up looking like better than what they were thinking about getting it to look like.
Well, and just, they get to see their, they've had this in their mind of what this is going to look like when it's done, and now they can see it and they're happy.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
and you steer them in the right direction too, or you add on or say, really, if you did it this way, because you have the experience.
Mm-hmm. Sure, and they're generally speaking, I mean, I try to go with what people want, but if there's something that really, you really don't want to put a wall there, or you really don't want to take that wall out, or if you take that wall out, your house is going to collapse. We can do it, but it's going to be real expensive. We got to do beam work. We got to do this, that, and the other. We'll steer them in the right direction. You really don't want to paint your house purple and brown. It's that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fine balance between, if somebody's, customers usually right. I will not say the customer's always right, because that's not true. Just like I'm not always right, but try to do what people want done to a point. And if we can kind of nudge them in the right direction or nudge them in a better direction here and there, then so be it.
So that was a construction in Oklahoma. Then how'd the construction company here in Florida, St. James City, Pine Island get started?
I moved here, my wife and I moved here, and my plan was just to kind of do handyman work, piddle, and because obviously, our bills were minimal. So I was just going to kind of fly under the radar, I actually ended up taking a part-time job with Billy Kirkland on Sanibel, bike guy, doing basically maintenance and repair on his buildings and stuff like that. Met him through my wife, because it's really interesting. I'm jumping all over the place. My wife, obviously, like I said, she was in real estate for over 20 years. And when we moved here, she went to work at this restaurant on Sanibel, new place that she's worked there since the day they opened, called Mudbugs. She runs the upstairs bar. She worked in service industry, worked her way through college, serving and bartending. And we moved here, and she's like, I just want to do that. I can work 2 or 3 days a week, and that's all I need to do, and I like it. And she's been doing it. She's been there ever since. And so she's a bartender,
mm-hmm.
and she's very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And she meets a lot of people. She met Billy when they first opened, and they were talking about me, and he's like, well, I need somebody. So I went and did that. It was part-time. It was on and off. And I deal better with kind of a routine. Then my youngest son, Ryan, decided that, and Ryan had worked with me, in his, obviously he was in school, but in the summers and everything else, he used to run baseboard for me when he was 12 and 13 years old. And
then he started.
I did all the cutting. I wouldn't let him cut. But, I mean, he could.
Oh yeah, he started off doing cutting boards.
Oh, he made custom cutting boards when he was
started selling them when he was like 14.
Oh wow!
Made cutting boards, did woodworking. I've still got a little box he made out of a single block of wood with 3 drawers in it, and it's kind of obscure shaped, and he made the whole thing out of one chunk of wood, the drawers and everything. It's amazing.
But yeah, and when he was 14, he even started working with a guy named Chaz. I think he's over in Orlando.
He was a little older. He's up there now, but he went. That was his first real job. Was working for a construction company.
And then he moved down here. He started working with Stearns.
He worked for Stearns.
He was trying to get a raise. He was trying to make it big, get a raise, become more involved, and it just wasn't working out. It felt a little stagnant, and so it's like, you know what? I think I can do this myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so he went out started getting smaller jobs, like more handyman stuff, like replacing a ceiling with something, and slowly started getting the ball rolling and started getting referrals from the jobs that he was doing. And he was just a lot more personable and a lot easier to deal with one person than like 5 different ones that are.
And he
working
had to
for
be
another
young when that happened.
He was
Oh, man. Yeah, I think he was like
19.
20, 19. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say a
He was
teenager.
19.
Yeah.
He along his story ties into how I ended up doing what I'm doing, because really I was his employee.
Yeah.
Ironically, he walked into Derek Stern's office one day and said, "This is what I need to get paid, and this is why. And if you're not willing to raise me to that, I'm going to have to move on." And Derek said, "Well, I can do this for you, but I can't go that much." And Ryan said, "Okay, well, I quit," and walked out and immediately signed on a couple of little jobs. And then he decided, he got his first big job and said, "Dad, I need help."
Yeah, he didn't want to. He wanted to do it all himself. He's
But
like, I need help.
I need help. And so I actually, believe it or not, at that point in time, I spent about 9 months. I went to work for Cornerstone as a carpenter, because it was kind of in a way refreshing to just, I don't have to worry about the books. I don't have to worry about being a boss. I can just go to work, punch time clock, and go make stuff. And I hated it for the most part. I mean, I didn't hate the work. I just hated, I've been my own boss for, almost 2 decades, and I just don't like being told what to do and when to do it. And at that point in time, to a point, obviously.
Well, and it's also, you can't have the same attention to detail
No.
and stuff that
No,
you can.
it's production. I'm not even going to go into
prefab
all
stuff.
that. It was a good company to work for. Ryan basically said, "I need your help." And I said, "Okay." And I walked in and told him, "Okay, I quit.
Mhm.
I'm giving my 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, I'm going to go ahead and give you my notice, but I'm going to work with my son."
Now, Connor, you weren't here yet for that?
No, so for me,
You were at Tampa.
well, at that point, yeah, but like later on, I ended up moving down here during COVID into Pine Island finally, and then I was working over at Mudbugs during COVID, and I was a bartender server there I'm still working there 1 day a week, but when Hurricane Ian hit, we just had like a huge flow of jobs coming in, and there was enough work for me to consistently make some, like, go in, get some work done, and work with my family,
And learn.
Yeah, it was the amount I've learned from 2 experienced people doing this that are there not only for themselves but also to provide me with insight on how to do things.
Yeah. I mean, that's, learn.
Yeah, and post Ian, that's when I started working pretty much. If I wasn't working 2 or 3 days over at Sanibel, I was working with my Ryan and my dad.
Yeah.
So,
well, everybody need help. There's
Absolutely.
all kinds of work.
Well, and I'll tell you, down here, it's hard to find good people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find good people,
well, good, consistent. Yeah.
if you find good people that know the business and know what they're doing, they don't want to work for you. They work for themselves, because there's enough work for everyone, especially now. As far as going back to my involvement, Ryan started the company. Ryan founded the company. Ryan was the driving force behind the company. I came to work for him. Then Connor came to work with us. He grew it from, doing a little job here and there to he got involved with Davey Shoring, who's doing the house lifting. And we, obviously, before any of that started, obviously I'm licensed, and that's a whole new thing, because in Oklahoma, there's no such thing as a contractor license. You don't have to, there are no credentials. You have to have a license to do electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and engineering, but there's no GC license. If you want to be a GC, you just say, okay, I'm a general contractor, and you go hire people to build stuff. And in here, obviously, it's very different, which there's a good reason for that. And from what I understand, I wasn't here at the time, but really the regulations on the industry started about with Andrew, with the hurricane, because people were coming down here and just ripping people off right and left, and they still do. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot harder to do now. So we got licensed, and then we started getting bigger jobs and started getting, decks, porches, stairs, which all of us really enjoy doing. I like being outside as long as I've got a cooler full of water and a fan somewhere. It just got, it was growing and growing and growing, and still is.
Yeah. Well, how many employees do you have now?
Right now,
yeah,
it's
just us two.
It's just us two. We've got one coming on. We've got one guy that works with us part-time, kind of a as-needed basis. And then we've got another guy that we're looking at bringing on probably in about 3 weeks when we start our next deck job. We've got a couple of jobs over on Sanibel that we have to start on as soon as we finish this one. But, it's to make a living in the construction industry, you either have to get huge or you have to stay really, really small. Mm-hmm. There's not really, you can't go part way. And because you just get overwhelmed. You try to get big but not huge, and you're going to you're going to take on more work than you can handle, and you're not going to be able to deliver. We just stay small and try to keep things manageable to a point, but it's like anything else. If you're good at what you do, there's gonna be demand, and it's a delicate balance, because if you say no too much, then people start asking. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to say yes to everybody and then not be able to deliver, and especially this time of year with the weather delays. Realistically, that job should have been finished, 2 or 3 weeks ago, but we had a hurricane. Mm-hmm. We've got rain at 2:00 every afternoon. And so, that's just the nature of the beast down here. Mm-hmm.
And with getting new employees, especially with a smaller group, it's tough. You have to know this person and know their character before they come into an interview, because you want to see how they're going to flow with. When you got 2 employees and then you add a third one, either they got to be able to work on their own or they got to be quick learners. Mm-hmm. And
I have to be able to rely on them. I can't tutor people all day long, because I'm swinging a hammer too. Mm-hmm. The one thing that people like about us and always have is we actually do the work. We don't come in and we don't, dress in a nice golf, logo golf shirt and shorts and loafers and
sit in
walk around, measure the house, and then
Yeah.
send a crew in to do the work that may or may not be able to communicate with the homeowner and that sort of thing. We actually, we come estimate the job, and then when the job starts, we're the ones that show up, and we're the ones that are doing the work. So there's no communication gap. If there's a problem, it can be addressed right away, and it's personal. And we're a family business, and that's the way I like it. I don't want to get huge just because I like keeping that intimate maybe not be the word, but there's a trust involved. I know what to expect from him. I know that he's trustworthy and honest, and I don't have to worry about things on a work site with him if I do leave. And that's important to me. That was important to me when I was building houses. I had a subcontractor one time that would not knock on, let's just say this. I had a subcontractor that would work inside a brand new house that we're building, a custom home, and he's smoking cigarettes and dropping the butts on the floor and putting them out and leaving them there. And that mortified. I fired him on the spot because I kept finding these cigarettes. Who's doing this? And I walked in the house, and it was my framer of all people. It just, that kind of thing bothers me. It's like drinking a beer on the job, or having using marijuana on a job. I don't have any tolerance for that. And it's not a good image. It affects your ability to do your job. And I just don't like the image it conveys. And so I'm really...
You're going to mess up a cut a couple times before you get it right.
Or you end up you lobsterize yourself.
Yeah.
But
something like that. Yeah.
That's a horrible way to put it, but...
That's right. But tell us about the different services you get. So when you do construction work, what all kinds of construction do you handle?
Typically right now we've been doing exterior deck framing, decking, staircases. We can do pretty much any service. I mean, obviously I know how to do some electrical work, some plumbing work, but I'm not licensed in those areas. So with that, we hire out, but I can do framing. We do, finished carpentry would be our specialty. Cabinetry, finished carpentry, door installations, window installations. We can do sheetrock repair, but I typically subcontract that. If it's one room or if it's a small patch, of course I'll do it.
Yeah, and we've done tile work too, and
some tile work.
I love the pictures on Facebook are beautiful. And the stairs. I love those stairs. And then you even went in under a house had been lifted, and then you went in and did work in there. I saw those pictures.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was really something.
Yeah.
It's the house lifting. That's a fascinating. I'd never seen anything like that before Ian. I don't know that it was really done, but taking a concrete slab house and raising it 10 feet up, it just.
Well, we watched the one on Stabile, and when they first did it, it was only, how high? And we said, that's not high enough. Then a few weeks went by, and they had doubled it in height, and then it was way up there.
Yeah.
And it's what about the flooring? I mean, is it, how did they do that?
It's all computerized.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like a
hydraulic
patented
rams. They actually have guys, that dig and tunnel under the house.
Yeah, you can
and position these hydraulic rams. And then they've got a pump rig that, once they actually weigh the house, they'll put the rams up, and their computer, their equipment will weigh the house. So they know exactly how much it weighs, how many
distribution,
where to distribute the weight, where to put the rams. And then it's all coordinated. Once they have everything in place, they'll pump it up, they'll raise it a few inches, and then they'll get it up yay high, and then they'll put supports under it, let it settle a little bit, then raise it a little further, stack more supports under it. And you do it very slowly so that it allows everything to
takes weeks
settle and not crack.
It looks
and
like
break.
a Jenga game.
Yeah,
with
really.
Added blocks.
Yeah, did they take the blocks and reuse them?
Blocks,
yep.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah, the timbers.
It's amazing.
It seems like they're actually using cinder blocks. They're kind of streamlining the process. I'm noticing, but it's pretty interesting. It's fascinating. I like it because we get deck work out of it.
Yeah,
I enjoy doing deck work. It's fun for us,
and especially since we acquired the boom lift, it's made our job a lot easier
with the high work.
Oh, I see it's out there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
you enjoyed that. Well, somebody wrote about it too. It said, "Oh, we got to use that now." Yeah. You were happy.
Big deal. Yeah. It makes it a lot easier, and we could be a lot more precise with what we can do now.
Probably
too.
quicker too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Who doesn't want to run equipment?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, when you're a little kid, you want to
Big
drive
toys.
a dump truck around and play with a backhoe. So it's kind of the same thing.
and you did a gazebo, I saw too.
Mm-hmm.
That must have been fun.
Mhm.
That was a
that was
chore.
fun.
That was a house. That was a house out in Arcadia.
Oh.
But, yeah, that was a fun project. It was a big one.
That was a drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your reviews, it said that you're committed to quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. And I noticed the reviews were all in line with that. You're
Yeah.
living up to your mission.
Absolutely.
Fabulous.
That's what we
that was
strive for. That's for
that
sure.
was Ryan's absolute. The one word I would use for Ryan and for the business was integrity. He would not compromise. He wouldn't compromise us
Mhm.
or the customer.
And he would always stand by his work too. So if
Yeah.
something went,
If there's
or-
an issue, it's taken care of.
yeah,
I don't. It's a big island, but it's a small island, and we do most of our work on the island.
Mhm.
And
that's what we prefer. By far.
so,
Well, I'm glad.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
I live here.
love it out here.
We live here, and so it's pretty uncomfortable to live somewhere and have a bad reputation, and have to have that follow you around. So, better to just eliminate that possibility.
Well, what's
way,
the
but
best
we
way
will
to
get
get a
back
hold
in
of you?
touch.
You have nice forms.
Yes.
You can submit a request for
Mhm.
repair, remodel, and you have a nice website. I encourage people to go to the Facebook page because they'll see a lot of great
The Facebook page is great.
pictures.
And the phone number, the phone number is on our signs and it's on the website. Call the phone number.
Go talk to you while you're working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like
It wouldn't be the
little
first
breaks.
time. It wouldn't be the first time. But, face to face is good,
Mhm.
But yeah, we generally, if, we're busy. So if somebody calls and we don't answer, leave a message and we'll get back in touch
Okay.
as quickly as possible.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
We
Absolutely.
No,
appreciate
thank
it.
you
It's so
very much.
interesting.
It's
fun.
it's neat to get to tell the story here and there.
Mhm.
It was interesting to hear.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
thanks so much.
Of
Thank you.
course. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed our Pine Island Experience podcast. If you have any ideas for us, people to interview, or any comments, please feel free to email them to us at pineislandexperience@gmail.com. That's pineislandexperience, all one word, @gmail.com. Don't forget to like us, and you may subscribe to this podcast using all the major catchers like Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Thanks again for listening, and remember, island life is a constant vacation. We'll see you on the next podcast.